Shalom Aleichem, Rabbosai. I hope you're all well. Let's learn a little bit, Mitzvah Hashem L'neder Me'inyan D'Yoma, about the mitzvah of Ahavas Yisroel in the Rambam. The Rambam writes in Perek Vav, Fechos Deos, Halacha Gimel. Mitzvah kol Adam, le'av es kol echad ve'echad mi-Yisroel kegufa. Everyone is obligated in the mitzvah of Ahavas Yisroel, kegufa. Shenema v'ahavta l'recha kamocha. Lefichach tzar sheyesaper b'shvacho, v'lochas al mamono, kamo shehuchos al mamon atzmo, v'rotze b'chvod atzmo. At first glance, the Rambam here is taking issue with the famous comment of the Ramban. Ramban comments on the pasuk "V'ahavta l'recha kamocha." He says initially that it's derech hafloga, that the Torah is intentionally exaggerating because it's impossible for a person to love anyone else to the same degree with the same depth and intensity that he loves himself. Self-love is stronger than the love for others. And what Rambam says, Rabbi Akiva codifies this fact by saying, Chayecha kod ben l'chayecha v'cha. Then Rambam says that the pshat is, in the pasuk, that why did the pasuk say, V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha with a prepositional lamed? I should have said V'ahavta esreacha kamocha in the accusative case. So the Ramban says the pshat in the pasuk is V'ahavta, you should love those things which you love for yourself. L'reacha, in reference to your friend, you should love everything that you want for yourself. You should love those things, l'reacha, for your friend as well. But the translation of the pasuk, or at any rate the halachic parameters of the mitzvah, aren't expressed according to the Rambam by saying, love thy neighbor as thyself. No, love thy neighbor in all the ways, in all the areas in which you love thyself. The Maharsha basically says the same in Masach Shabbos, in the famous Gemara, where the prospective ger comes before Hillel, first before Shammai, then before Hillel, and then he called Torah Kulak Sheni Omer Avagalacha. So Shammai throws him out, and Hillel says that Allah Sanei Lachabecha L'Saved Ve'idach Perusha Zil Gmor. What's hateful unto you, don't do unto your friend. Everything else is commentary. Go and learn. So Hillel is telling him, as Rashi there comments, but Hillel says it in the negative, right? He doesn't say it in the positive. He says, the Allah Sani, what's hateful to you, what you don't want, what's annoying to you, what you would resent, what's unwelcome to you, so don't impose that upon your friend. Why didn't he say it in the positive? Says the Rasha, the same point as the Ramban, because it's not the case that in a proactive, positive sense, we love our friends, that we're commanded to love our fellow Jew to the same degree, with the same intensity and depth that we love ourselves. So hence, Hillel says the real mechuvan is, just like the beginning of the pasuk is lo saseh lo sikam lo sito, that's the real mechuvan here as well. Okay, very similar to the Ramban. Either way, the Rambam, l'fum riata, stands in sharp contrast to the Ramban and the Maharsha, because the Rambam says mitzvah kol adam le'avas kol echad ve'echad yisrael kegufa. So there's no disclaimer there. There is an equation here. The mitzvah is equating that a person should love kol echad ve'echad yisrael kegufa. But upon reflection, it's clear that the Rambam also is responding to the difficulty that engaged the Ramban and Maharsha, and agrees that that's a difficulty that needs a response, but he solves the difficulty in a different way. Let's reread the Rambam for a moment. We'll say, Mitzvah kol odom levus kol echad miyisrechad kigufo. Rambam doesn't say that we have a mitzvah to love fellow Jews as we love ourselves. But as a person loves, as a person is concerned with his body, a body is not oneself. Right? The real person, the real me, the real you is not our body. The pasuk in Eov, in Kapitel Yud in Eov, Oru baso talvisheni, you dress me, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, with skin and flesh, uba'atzamos v'gidim tesochacheni, and you cover me with bones and sinews. The real me is the spiritual, is the ruach, is the neshama. The body is the levush. Shari Kedusha quotes this pasuk, and he juxtaposes to it the pasuk in Chumash al besar odom lo yisach, in referring to the, I think it's the Sheman HaMishcha is the context, that you can't use the Sheman HaMishcha beyond what it's prescribed for. So it says not to anoint it on the flesh of a person. So the basa, the body, is not the person; it's the body of the person. But the person is the spiritual core within. Rashi in Sanhedrin has the same idea. The Gemara says in Sanhedrin there are two psukim which serve as the source for the chiyuv of minayin l'ros chaver tovei benohor or listim boam alav shachayv latzilo. How do you know that a person can't remain a passive, idle bystander if he's in a position to save his friend? So one pasuk is Lo Samad Adam Me'echa. The other pasuk is the pasuk of Hashavas Aveda, of Hashevos Salo. Rashi explains that if you mechuyav to return mamono shal chaver lechavero, so you're certainly mechuyav to return gufo shal chavero to chavero. So you're returning the guf to the person. So there's a clear distinction here, right? There's a clear delineation. The guf is not the person. Well, now, when we reread the Rambam with that in mind, so we see that the Rambam, unlike the Ramban, thinks that the Torah is equating and saying, no, it should be the same love. But the Rambam doesn't. The Rambam has solved the difficulty of, but isn't self-love greater and isn't self-love more intense and doesn't it run deeper? The answer is yes. But the equation is not to love one's fellow Jew the way one loves oneself, but to love guf chaveri the way I love my own guf, and that a person is capable of. That equation is a realistic equation. That is a realistic demand that the Torah is making of us. Okay, the Rambam continues and says, that being concerned with a person's covet, being concerned with his money, again, those are expressions of loving guf chavero. Where did the Rambam know? How did the Rambam know to single out those two areas, momon chavero and kavod chavero? So, because the Mishnah points to the Mishnayos, and I think it's Perek Beis of Ahavas, of Yehi momon chavero lecha keshalach, and Yehi chavod chavero lecha keshalach. That those two Mishnayos, that the Rambam sees as defining the parameters of the mitzvah of lev kol echad ve'echad kegufo. And again, it's kishalach. You have to be as concerned, a person has to be as concerned with Mammon Chaveru as he's concerned with his own Mammon. That's an expression of La'el Kegufa. A person has to be as concerned with the basic dignity of Chaveru as he is concerned with his own dignity. Another expression, another application of mitzvah La'el Kol Echad Echad Yisroel Kegufa. Okay. The Rambam revisits this mitzvah. This is all the Rambam has to say about the mitzvah of Ahavas Yisroel here in Hilchos Deis. The Rambam, at the end of the Yad HaChazaka, in Perek Yudal Hilchos Ovel, revisits this mitzvah, and the Rambam writes it as follows: Mitzvahs Eser Shel Deveim, again, it's Halacha Aleph here in Perek Yudal of Ovel. Mitzvahs Eser Shel Deveim Levakeh Cholim, Ulenachem Avelim, Ulahotzi Hameis, Ulahachnes Hakala, Ulelavos Ha'orchem, V'lasok B'chotzake Hakvura, Vasis Al Hakosef, to carry the mess to the cemetery, to carry him on one's shoulders, Leilech Lefana V'lispo, V'lachpo, to dig the kever, V'likpo, to bury the mace, V'chen L'sameach HaChosen V'Hakala U'Lesa'ada B'chotzorkehem, to provide for all the needs of Chosen and Kala. This whole range of chesed activities, they're all mitzvahs midrabanan. Ve'elohim gemilas chasadim shebegufo she'en lahem shiyah. They're open-ended mitzvahs, open-ended. Ve'afo pishikol mitzvahs elam midiveihem, even though as distinct individual mitzvahs, they're midrabanan. Hareihem b'chal v'ahavta lecha kamocha. But they're all subsumed in the general deoraisa mitzvah v'ahavta lecha kamocha. The Rambam explains, Kol advam she'ata rotza sheyasu osam l'cha acherim, whatever you want that others should do for you, asay osam ata l'achicha v'atorah mitzvahs. See here the question, which is really, really very disturbing question. It can cause sleepless nights. Why is there no hint to this whole range of activities in Hilchos Deis? Why did the Rambam give us such a limited presentation of the mitzvah of Ahavas Yisroel in Hilchos Deis? The only thing you know in Hilchos Deis is Lochos al Mamono and Lochos al Kvodo, which include the Sapir V'Shvacha. But this whole gamut of chesed activities, you wouldn't know from Hilchos Deis, where the Rambam introduces the mitzvah of Ahavas Yisroel. You wouldn't know that that's b'chlal the mitzvah. Okay, well, let's leave that kasha. Let's leave that kasha for a minute, Rabbi Joseph. In Chazal, we find the following. Mechad Gisa, we find remarkable drashas Chazal. It appears a few times in Sanhedrin, elsewhere as well. When we try to determine some of the details of how the different Arba Misas Bezdin are carried out, when there's an ambiguity, is it to be carried out this way? Is it to be carried out that way? The Beis Haskila from which Niskalim are pushed, how high should it be? So in each case, the Gemara resolves that ambiguity. The Gemara says we choose between the two options based on V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha b'ro misa yafa. If there's one way to interpret that what the Torah has in mind is a misa which is more menuvelis, more degrading, or more prolonged, and there's another way to understand that the pasuk is talking about a misa which is less degrading, more instantaneous, so b'ro misa yafa. So you see clearly who's getting Mrs. Bez then? Russia. Asher Russia Lomos. So the mitzvah of Ahavas Yisroel, V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, is even a Russia. But me'idach gisa, the Gemara in Arvei Psachim says Haroed var erva b'chavera, mitzvah l'snasa. There's a mitzvah to hate him. The pshuto, if there's a mitzvah to hate him, it means that there's no mitzvah to Ahavas Yisrael. So the mitzvah of Ahavas Yisrael doesn't apply to our Rosh. Similarly, the Ovis of Nosan, I think that the Torah Tzmima on the Pasuk in V'ahavta Lecha Kamocha and Pashas Kedoshim is saying this Ovis of Nosan. V'ahavta Lecha Kamocha im ose masa amcha ata ohavo v'im lav ata ohavo. If he conducts himself like a Jew, he's shomatar mitzvahs. So then there's a mitzvah of Ahavas Yisrael. But im lav, if he doesn't, he ata ohavo. So the Rambam apparently, by juxtaposing, integrating these different Ma'amori Chazal, on the one hand, on the other hand, that the mitzvah of V'ahavta L'Orecha Kamocha is a two-tiered mitzvah. It has two different, distinct domains. There's one tier of the mitzvah, one domain of the mitzvah, that applies to all Jews, even if he's not a chicha b'Torah b'mitzvahs. Even if he's not a chicha b'Torah b'mitzvahs. There's a mitzvah of Ahavas Yisrael even in that case. Me'idach gisa, there's another tier to the mitzvah. There's a second distinct domain of the mitzvah, which applies only to a chicha b'Torah mitzvahs. How did Chazal see both in the one pasuk of V'ahavta L'Orecha Kamocha? So on the one hand, Ve'acha consistently suggests Ve'acha b'Torah mitzvahs. Me'idach gisa, Tosfos in Sanhedrin Memhei, they actually have two possibilities. Just to mention the second possibility, V'yesh meforshim mishum d'chsid b'reishei dekora. V'ahavta L'Orecha Kamocha is the middle of the pasuk. The beginning of the pasuk is lo sikah v'lo sitor. V'loshon nekima hainu misa k'damin lekamon b'perak Abba Misos gabi nokom yinakem kshehu omer v'hevesi alechem charev nokemes nekambris. So lo sikah refers to nekima. Nekima is referred to in the same pasuk as V'ahavta L'Orecha Kamocha, suggesting, intimating, again, and nekima sometimes has the mashmos of misa, suggesting that even when you in the form of Bezdin, are putting your friend to death, there's a mitzvah V'ahavta L'Orecha Kamocha. A hekesh, as it were. Sometimes, I don't know, literally a hekesh, but quasi-hekesh is not a hekesh. That the mitzvah V'ahavta L'Orecha Kamocha is even in the context of nekima, even in the context of nokom yinokem, of where the chavercha mumos al yodcha, your bezdin, and you're giving Mrs. Bezdin, afal pichein, even at that moment, even at that juncture, V'ahavta L'Orecha Kamocha. Me'idar gisa ve'acha has the mashmos of ve'acha b'Torah mitzvahs. Nemsenu lemeidim that the mitzvah V'ahavta L'Orecha Kamocha is a two-tiered mitzvah. Excuse me, a mitzvah with two distinct domains. There's a more limited part of the mitzvah which applies to any Jew, even a Russia, even to the extreme of B'olam Misa Yafa. And then there's a broader version of the mitzvah, but that applies only to Chicha B'Torah mitzvahs. If we go back to the two halachas in the Rambam that we saw, so we'll notice something remarkable. In Hilchos Deos, the Rambam said the mitzvah is Leo Kol Echad Ve'echad Yisroel Kegufa. Who is on the receiving end of our Ahavas Yisroel? Kol Echad Ve'echad Yisroel. That's the description, the definition the Rambam provides. Contrast that with what he says in Hilchos Havel. Again, after listing the whole gamut of chesed activities, bikor cholim, nicham avelim, etc., So the Rambam says, "Afal pisha kol mitzvos elu midivreihem, hareihem b'chlal v'ahavta l'recha kamocha, kol advam she'ata rotza sheyasu osam l'cha acherem, aseh osam ata lo'achicha b'torah u'b'mitzvos." Oh, so that's exactly, in Hilchos Deis is the first domain, the first tier of the mitzvah. The domain of the mitzvah, which encompasses all Jews, kol echad v'echad miYisrael, but it's more limited. It's kegufa. And the Rambam understood that that's the Mishnayos and Ahavas of Yehi Mamon Chavecha, Chavecha Geshalach, and Yehi Chavod Chavecha, Chavecha Geshalach are delineating the parameters of that domain of the mitzvah, of that first tier of the mitzvah. And then in Hilchos Avel, the Rambam tells us about the second domain of the mitzvah, the second tier of the mitzvah, where the person on the receiving end is not just kol echad v'echad miYisrael, but he's achicha b'torah mitzvahs. But the emphasis is our original kasha remains. Right? We still haven't been able to understand why the Rambam doesn't include both chelkei ha-mitzvah, both tiers of the mitzvah in Hilchos Deis. Let's leave this aside for a moment and turn the page to Perek Zayin of Hilchos Deis. Perek Zayin of Hilchos Deis is devoted, for the most part, to Hilchos Lashon Hara. It be Ruchilas and Lashon Hara. Ram begins Perek Zayin, Hameragel b'chaver over v'lo sasei, shenem alo selech rochiel ba'amecha. He then continues and says, Yesh oven gadol mizeh ad ma'od. There's an even greater avera, v'hu b'chlal lav zeh. It's subsumed within the same love of laselech rochiel, v'hu Lashon Hara. Okay. And the Rambam then continues and speaks about Dinei Lashon Hara for the first 6 halachas of Perek Zayin. And this is where the Rambam treats Hilchos Lashon Hara. This is the location in the Rambam. If we want to look up Hilchos Lashon Hara in the Rambam, Ayin Perek Zayin Hilchos Deis. And yet, there's a startling omission in Perek Zayin Hilchos Deis. In Perek Zayin Hilchos Deis, the Rambam does not record the love of Shmiyas Lashon Hara, of Kabbalas Lashon Hara. He talks about the love of speaking Rechilas, of speaking Lashon Hara, but he does not codify the love of being Shomeya, being Mekabel Lashon Hara. The only reference to Shmiyas Lashon Hara is sort of incidentally Behavloa. The Rambam writes, he quotes the Maimonides Chazal, that Shlosh Lashon Hara Horeges, Ha'omro v'hamekablo v'zeh she'omrim alav. V'hamekablo yeser min ha'omro. But it's through the back door. Maybe not even through the back door, through the window. He mentions Shmiyas Kabbalas Lashon Hara in the context of underscoring for us the chomer halav of Lashon Hara. But the love of Shmiyas Kabbalas Lashon Hara, we don't encounter that in the Rambam until we get to Perek Chaf Aleph of Hilchos Sanhedrin, where the Rambam tells us Lasisa Shem Ashav in the context of Bezdin means, excuse me, in the context of Bezdin means that Bezdin is not allowed to listen to the tightness of one Baldin if the other Baldin is not yet present. And then the Rambam says that Losis Hashem Hashav also is another love for Mesapel Lashon Hara and a love for Shomei Lashon Hara. But why didn't the Rambam tell us in Hilchos Deis, where he's talking about Dinei Lashon Hara? Why didn't the Rambam tell us there about the Isur Shmiyas Lashon Hara? So the Pshat L'chara is as follows. How does Hilchos Lashon Hara come into Hilchos Deis anyway? So, no, Hilchos Lashon Hara, so we think of it again as Dinei Shmiras HaLashon. Okay, so where should it have been in the Rambam? I don't know, but that doesn't justify its being in Hilchos Deos. And if it was sort of there, even though it didn't really belong there, so the Rambam would have noted that for us, as he does in other places. For instance, in Hilchos Ovel, how Hilchos Ovel comes into Sefer Shoftim, so the Rambam explains. The Rambam shared with us his considerations for classification in the Yadi. That's the Hilchos Avodah Zarah as well. Well, LMI, it's clear that the Rambam is telling us that, again, the what's proscribed is the dibur of Rechilas, the dibur of Lashon Hara. But the Yesod, the Shoresh Isser, it's a Hilchos Deistic Isser. It's a Hilchos Deistic Isser. To speak pejoratively, disparagingly about a fellow Jew, it's a Hilchos Deistic Isser. Again, Deos for the Rambam is what we call Midos. Midos. It's a corrupt Midah. That gratuitously, I should be disparaging a fellow Jew. I should be speaking pejoratively about a fellow Jew. That's a Hilchos Deistic Isser. Why would a person initiate that kind of speech? Why would a person engage in that kind of speech? It's a Hilchos Deistic Isser. There's a character flaw in me if I'm initiating that kind of speech. But Medro Mamurim, that it's Hilchos Deistic Isser, is to be Mesaper Lashon Hara, to be Mesaper Rechilas. Because the Mesaper is the one who initiates it. The Shomei Lashon Hara could be wasn't looking to hear Lashon Hara. He sat down innocently, and then before he knows it, people are talking Lashon Hara. And here, it may not be a out of malice. I don't know. This is susceptibility that we have. We're naive. This is susceptibility that we have, that when we hear things, we tend to believe them. The Yitzur being Shomei or Makabel Lashon Hara, that's not a Hilchos Deistic Isser. It's also, it's categorically also. Again, obviously, the Chofetz Chaim has the exceptions. We're not talking about that now. What isn't the Isurim, but it's definitely also, but it's a different type of Isur. It's not a Hilchos Deistic Isur. So what do we see from this example? That the Rambam had to choose. Rambam had two options. Option number one was to be comprehensive in terms of Lashon Hara, and to codify here not only the Hilchos, the law of Mesaper Lashon Hara, but also the law of Shomei Lashon Hara. That's one option, and that would have allowed him to be comprehensive. The other option is don't be comprehensive, but preserve that conceptual distinction. Preserve that Havana. Don't blur that conceptual differentiation that the lav of Mesaper Lashon Hara is a Hilchos Deistic lav. The lav of Shmi of a Kabbalah is not a Hilchos Deistic lav. What does the Rambam choose to do? The Rambam chooses, rather than being comprehensive in one spot, the Rambam chooses to speak about Lashon Hara in two different places and preserve that correct understanding, not to risk blurring that clear distinction between the lav. Whenever we interact with other people, there are two potential, often not just potential, but two actual machayev. One machayev is one's own midos. When we engage with other people, to treat them with basic civility, basic courtesy, to confer basic dignity. Our midos demand and dictate a code of conduct. Just von sich, right? We have to behave that way because our midos should express themselves that way. That's one mechayev in interpersonal interactions. Another mechayev beyond that is what the other person is a mechayev of. Not my midos being a mechayev, but he's a mechayev of. To give an example, when an ani is mevakesh, so there are two mechayvim in tzedakah. One's own midas harachmanos is a mechayev in tzedakah, but two, the ani is a mechayev in tzedakah. He, as a person, as a nitzrach, he is a mechayev. Of these two mechayvim, the first one belongs to Hilchos Deis. That's what Hilchos Deis is about midas. The second one does not belong to Hilchos Deis. The second one, but where does it belong? Okay, if you're talking about tzedakah, it belongs in Hilchos Matnas Aniyim. So the Rambam in Hilchos Deis talks about being mefazer mamon, about giving to tzedakah according to one's means, not being tight-fisted, but on the other hand, not being mefazer mamon beyond what a person can afford to do. He talks about Hilchos Tzedakah, but then talks about Hilchos Tzedakah again in Hilchos Matnas Aniyim at length. Why? Two different mechayim. There's a mechayev of one's own midas, a Hilchos Deis like a mechayev, and then there's the chaver is a mechayev. Similarly, in mitzvahs Ahavas Yisroel, these two domains within the mitzvah, these two tiers of the mitzvah, the two different mechayvim. The mitzvah al kol echad ve'echad mi'Yisrael kegufo, even though he's not a chicha b'torah mitzvahs, it's not by virtue of how he lives his life. It's not by virtue of anything he does that he commands that ahava. It's your midos. The Torah is mechayev it mitzad our own midos, mitzad one's own midos. That's the way a Jew relates to a fellow Jew. Lochus al mamono l'sape b'shvacho. Again, the Borlo Misayofa is not halacha l'maisa in that the Rambam needs to quote that in Hilchos Deis. It was a guiding principle for Chazal in how to darshan and clarify what the Misos Bezdin are. But beyond that, it has no real applications. And the Rambam quotes those Mishnayos and Ahavas. And the reason I will question why does the Rambam give us such an incomplete picture of the mitzvah of Ahavas Yisrael and Hilchos Deis is because in Hilchos Deis he's only telling us about the Hilchos Deistic component of the mitzvah. Just as in Perek Zayin, he'll only tell us about the Hilchos Deistic component of Dinei Lashon Hara. And the other component of mitzvah Ahavas Yisrael, which isn't the Hilchos Deistic, there the Mechayev is Achicha B'Torah Mitzvahs. No, you encounter Achicha B'Torah Mitzvahs, he's Mechayev. By virtue of who he is, he's Mechayev. That doesn't belong in Hilchos Deis. The same way the Isser of Shmiras Lashon Hara doesn't belong in Hilchos Deis either. One last what will say. In Nefesh Harav, Shachta quotes from the Rav as follows: Zekeli v'anvei v'alokei aviv v'aroma menhu. U'pirush Rashi lo ani tchilas hakedusha ela muchuzekes v'omedes li hakedusha ve'elokuso alai mimei avosai. Klomar shelachol odom Yisrael, every Jew has shtei bechinos shel kedushas Yisrael. There's sort of two aspects of the kedushas Yisrael which each of us has. One is literally innate, right? Based on matrilineal descent, right? Literally innate. That gives us one aspect, one level of kedushas Yisrael. The habez, but then there's a second aspect of kedushas Yisrael. The fact that that's self earned, that we earn by ourselves, the fact that a person is Mekabel al Malchus Shamayim, Mekabel al mitzvahs, the fact that he not only is born to a Jewish mother, but lives as a Jew. So that gives a second aspect to his Kedushas Yisrael. Basically, the mitzvah, what we've seen in the Rambam, in the mitzvah of Ahavas Yisrael, corresponds to these two bechinas of Kedushas Yisrael. There's the bechina of Kedushas Yisrael, which is based on matrilineal descent, called Echad ve'Echad miYisrael. And then there's a more encompassing tier to the mitzvah, which is Achicha b'Torah mitzvahs, corresponding to that second bechina of Kedushas Yisrael. The bechina of Kedushas Yisrael, not just having been born to a Jewish mother, but living day in, day out as a Jew. Halavai should be zocha to mekayem the mitzvah b'shleimusa, as it appears in Hilchos Deis, as it appears in Hilchos Orvel. Through Ahavas Abrius, even of Perek Vav and Hilchos Deis, we should be zocha collectively to be makarven laTorah, so that all Jews will be included in the domain of Perek Yudaleh Hilchos Orvel as well, and in that schus we should be zocha to a geula shleima b'meiv yameinu. Amen.